Welcome back to another Hunt Lore podcast. My name is David Hepner, and today I am talking with Josh Harwood. He's a new bow hunter here in Manitoba, and we just kind of go over his journey on his way to becoming a bow hunter. He's yet to take his first year with a bow, but he has been out hunting a number of years, and he just kind of goes over the details of that. You guys are going to want to listen to some of the stories. They're pretty good.
Okay, where do I even go to shoot a deer? I've got a tag and a gun now. Like, what do I do next? And he's like, just meet me at this fire road. Okay, I've only got a car. He's like, you'll be fine.
My name is David Hepner, and this is the Hunt Lore Podcast, where we will spark our imaginations and pay tribute to the time-honored tradition of hunting by sharing our stories of the hunt. Hunt Lore is brought to you by Black Bear Wear, bear hunting apparel for bear hunters and everyone else. Get it, wear it, share it.
All right, I'm here with Josh Harwood.
Nice to be here.
Yeah.
I'm Josh Harwood, and glad to be here.
Yeah, you're on the Hunt Lore podcast. So I guess we got to go back into kind of how we met here. It seems like how most people meet these days is online.
Social media. Messaged you about fishing, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
If you could make I think I wanted a bass video back then, something, or just go out bass fishing. And then, just kept in contact over the years. And you were one of the few guys that I had seen posting stuff about archery and whatnot.
That's cool.
So then started shooting questions your way about archery.
I'm always happy to answer questions when it comes to bow hunting and archery stuff. So that was pretty neat to see you getting into the whole game there, because when I saw you guys with your fishing content, it was like, wow, there's some hardcore anglers out there. And I was just kind of getting into it myself. You know, like I've been into fishing for, I would say, like almost my whole life, just not hardcore like you guys were taking it to a next level. Seems like there's a group of you guys, eh?
Yeah, it's for a big chunk, there'd be like-minded dudes about, well, there's a handful of guys that like taking it to, well, at a point there, it was all the Manitoba, I think, was chasing the master angler thing, huge. And it was starting to, that they were tracking it and actively tracking it. It seemed like, well, this is fun to pursue, but yeah, kind of seems like it went to a gong show later on, and everybody started fading, and like all the online forums, it just got really gong show-ish, and
yeah. So for people that don't know, here in Manitoba, we have a program called the Master Angler Program. So it's basically the Pope and Young record book for fishing here. So if you catch a northern pike, it's 41 inches. It makes the book, makes the Master Angler book or record program.
And you actually got a piece of metal in the mail.
Yes.
Certificate.
Yeah.
So I've got my hat with all my pins badged onto it.
And there was something to work towards, right? There were goals.
Could collect all the species, which is the main thing to get your diamond badge, which is all 32 Manitoba species or whatever.
I know people are probably wondering, what does this have to do with bow hunting? But really it does. This is how we met. So that kind of lays the foundation for it. And basically when somebody like yourself was like pursuing those goals pretty heavy, and then you started messaging me about bow hunting and archery, and then it just went really quick after that. You're mentioning Jeff Sturgis, who's like really well known in the whitetail woods with habitat management. I was like, wow, this guy's really taken it to the next level. You know, you're really knowing your stuff. You're actually researching it, applying, I guess, the techniques on your own property.
Yeah, trying to, I guess, just heighten the chances of having the best opportunity locally instead of having, because hunting to start out has always been at least hour, 2 hour drive minimum. And then this being a bow only zone, the new property.
You got to tell people what happened there. Like you ended up buying basically your dream property.
Yeah, dream property at 30 of 80 acres with a creek running through it for my fishing and shit. Hopefully eventually put in a pond, like a bass pond or something.
That's awesome.
Also a wildlife, like just add to the wildlife diversity, and then just lots of wildlife work instead of hacking up the forest and just doing it willy-nilly.
Yeah, you're doing it with a purpose, right?
With every little modification to the land, hopefully, to increase wildlife.
Exactly.
Habitat.
Yeah, and it already seems like you're being like somewhat selective with what you're going to want to take on the property. Like it seems like you already have goals, like management goals too. So that's pretty awesome.
Much with the deer, like it might be slack at the start. I've already thought about like, would I take a big buck first year just for first animal harvested right in the yard, or really see what I could do, or even just another aspect of, can I keep a mature buck around for a season or two? That'll be another question. If I let him live, will he still be around next season?
Yeah, that's always, that's the thing, eh? I have another buddy there, Ryan Taves. He's a good, you should probably talk to him, man. That guy is into traditional hunting. Like, now he's shooting a compound, but he shot trad for years and years. And I think you actually might go back to that. And he was just talking about too, just passing up bucks, because in his group of guys that he hunts with, he's the guy that passes up everything because he always wants to see them grow.
Yeah, you want to see what they turn into instead of, it looks nice now, but what could that be is more and I think that's where the whole fishing kind of intertwines with it, is the catch and release kind of aspect.
That's perfect.
Where you can, seeing someone catch a 42-inch pike that you released like a week earlier and their face light up, if you could, that's kind of how I see the big bucks. That's pretty
satisfying.
If you could grow a big buck and know he's around for Buddy to come shoot, that would be pretty deadly.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Or I think our end goal is someday turn this into like a hunting lodge or like guest cabin, and then guide out of here.
Yeah, you could
either
do that.
Do fishing for the day, or if like the weather's shitty for deer or whatever they come down for. So if the deer woods are shitty, I could take them out fishing. Or if there's bird hunts, there's rabbit hunts, there's all kinds of hunts around.
See, and that's the thing I just had this conversation with a coworker about this, and he mentioned something like that, because there's people in the city, like the big city of Winnipeg, I guess, but just all throughout North America, that they're disconnected with the outdoors. They have no idea. So even if you take them in the back, you show them some deer sign, you show them, okay, this is a buck rub, this is a scrape, this is a bedding area, you see some deer, like they don't even have to shoot anything, and then you can
just like a nature conservatory almost.
Really
don't even have to have hunters out.
You don't even have to have hunters. You're saving the resource in that way. You're getting people kind of in tune with nature. You can expose them to hunting still, and show that it's a positive thing. Give them some jerky or whatever, right? Because everyone eats
I think that's more so like you were talking with my one neighbor who's crazy about nature and whatnot. I've got a neighbor to the north that's just crazy about her wildlife and whatnot. But it's like, if only she knew the hunter to the south not only hunts, but also is trying to turn his whole 80 acres into like a wildlife paradise, maybe she'd have a bit of a different view.
And there's a fly right there. Just heard that in the mic. That was funny. But yeah, exactly. People don't necessarily understand that about hunters, especially the way that you're doing it. I think the way that I've done it, but now you being a landowner and how you're managing and planning to manage it.
Conservation's always been a big part of it, because like starting out just recently and hearing about like there's only like 6,500 elk in Manitoba to even go for, which is still a huge improvement on 100 years ago. But if it wasn't for hunters, probably wouldn't be any. People
just don't care. They don't, if there's no value, and this has been said over the internet like crazy, if there's no value to an animal, they just get pushed to the wayside. That's really what it is. As hunters, we actually value the resource. We're willing to buy licenses, which goes back into the resources here in Manitoba. And then as well, we're supporting the economy. Now we're going off on a tangent with that, but really that's what it is, right? We are invested in this and wanting to see the animals, where somebody who's all about preservation, like your neighbor,
is doing very little to preserve the land.
Exactly.
Where the hunter that she's against is actually doing something for the land.
Yeah, you're not preserving, but you're conserving and making improvements on the habitat.
Even just tags like the basic, back down to the basic. Exactly. At least the hunters or the fishermen are at least contributing to Manitoba wildlife.
Exactly.
Where your anti-hunter is doing nothing for the animals.
At their best, they're probably donating to PETA, and who knows what PETA does.
Yeah, exactly.
I doubt very little.
Yeah, just to help our animals, especially locally.
Exactly that. So, well, that was pretty good there. Well, let's go off into kind of like how you started hunting. Like, how were you introduced to hunting? Like, were you introduced to it at a very young age, or
I guess growing up, my dad always went away to deer camp, but wasn't very close with him. That was always just something he did. Then,
You know what? That actually seems common back in that age group.
yeah,
Like
they just went with the boys.
just the boys. My wife's father did the same thing. It was just him and the boys going out hunting.
Yeah.
That was it. You know,
None
like,
of the younger generation brought along
Yeah.
to camp. It was just that group that
Yeah.
chipped in for camp. It
Yeah.
was like their thing.
and that might be different in Manitoba than what it was in the States. I think the States, they had a little bit more maybe family ties to deer hunting camp. But here in Manitoba, it really seems like it's always just the older guys, like the boys going out.
Yeah, and just select few. I
Yeah.
think my dad wasn't originally from Toba,
Yeah.
so it was just his select group of guys that
Yeah.
were into that, and
Yeah.
it seems like that was their thing.
That's right.
I don't think I ever saw those friends
Yeah.
outside of hunting. And then as I got older, wasn't then it was all partying and shit. And then eventually I was like, well, this is just a big waste of money. And that's when I found fishing. And then through fishing and
Okay, just to go back to a conversation we had earlier about the deer meat. When you were a kid,
Yeah.
you ate the deer meat that your dad brought home. What did you think of it?
just disgusting. And it was always just like thrown in a frying pan, like a thick slab with salt and pepper. And I just remember it being like overcooked and gamey as fuck and
Yeah.
like a chunk of rubber and
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
why are you excited about this? And then, yeah, when so I got into fishing at like 25, and then just being outdoors, and everybody that's in fishing pretty much is like an avid outdoorsman, or at least knows a different avid outdoorsman. So I think it was like a bird hunter would be with like one fishing buddy
Yeah.
one weekend, then the next weekend he's got like a big bear hunter with him, then
Yeah.
the next weekend, and it's just like they're not really fishermen, but they enjoy the outdoors, so they come with another buddy fishing, and then it's just like
That's
you're all like-minded people, so then you end up linking up.
exactly. You're exposed to other avenues in the outdoors. Kind of
Yeah.
like, I know Meat Eater, they talked about this at one episode that I listened to. They said that all hunters were fishermen for the most part. And then all trappers had hunted and fished. And that's kind of true. It seems that's kind of consistent. So yeah, you're running into these guys fishing.
Yeah.
Now you're exposed to that. And
The other avenues, and then it's like, well, some days you can't get out on the water, so might as well try. They're saying this is the next best thing, and then like it ties into later on. I'd compare like muskie fishing to deer hunting, but that's further down the road once I was more into hunting and whatnot. But it was more so being slightly introduced through fishing. I think I went on a couple bird hunts with
Mhm.
Buddy's dad and him, like just out in a field just for the experience.
so by birds, you mean Canada geese?
Yeah, geese and whatever ducks flew off the pond or whatever was
Yeah.
around that day.
Were you guys using decoys at all, or
We were just ditch shooting with
oh,
his
pass
dad.
shooting?
Yeah. So that was into that avenue. And then for deer hunting, I remember my first season, I had just got a rifle, went and picked up a 30-06 because that's just talking to other old timers
Oh, yeah.
around site and stuff. They're
Yeah.
all like, of course, it was big arguments and stuff all over the job site about what rifle to start with and whatnot. So I got my 30-06, messaged my coworker, being like, okay, where do I even go to shoot a deer? I've got a tag and a gun now.
Yeah,
Like,
nice.
what do I
I
do
love it.
next?
Love it.
And
That-
he's like, just meet me at this fire road. Okay, I've only got a car. He's like, you'll be fine. So I get to this freaking spot in the morning. There's like probably like 16 inches of snow. It's a manual. It's got no cell service, so I just freaking give it down this freaking like mud road into this field.
I love
He's
it.
still not there, so I'm like, I guess I just go for a walk. So I'm just walking around this field, get back to the car, drive back out to where I finally get service. This like half day in my first hunting experience. I'm just, yeah, this is
I
where
love
Buddy
it.
told me to go and where to walk around. Get back to the car. I'm like, are you? He's like, I was on my way there. I spotted one, walked in, shot it. I'm at home butchering it already.
No way.
We'll try
Come
again
on.
next weekend. So then I met him on a different fire road the next weekend,
Yeah.
and like that was pretty much my whole first season. I just remember getting spots from Buddy where I was allowed to shoot if I saw something, and then just
Yeah.
going off and hiking.
So you didn't know anything about like land ownership maps or anything
I
like
think
crown
I
land?
bought the like RM paper map
Yeah.
from Canada Map Sales, which just shows pretty much the entire chunk
Yeah.
for as far as the eye can see is Crown Bush. It's like,
Exactly.
okay, I parked in the middle of this. That's all I need the map for. I guess I walk till I see a deer. And then that first season, I remember finding a couple tree stands and then just being like, holy, there's a lot of road hunters on these fire roads.
Oh yeah, big time. No, I love it, and I'm laughing because that's so like pure and raw. Like that is, I remember like one of my first deer hunting experiences with my old man and my brother in BC. We were just like walking down clear cut and logging roads out there, deer tracks everywhere. I had no idea that's where the deer fed at night.
Yeah.
So we're like, there's a lot of tracks here, so let's just walk here. And we're in the middle of the day, like nothing's coming out there. Like that's an evening spot, you know.
Just walking through the middle of a
yeah.
wide open field.
Yeah, we had no idea.
Like, yeah, one could pop out at any time, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have no.
Meanwhile,
exactly.
I just drove my car in there and probably was walking like right beside my car, like as if they've seen a car driving through the fields in the middle of winter. And
that's just for people who are from the States, Crown land is public land.
Yeah.
That's what we call it out here. But yeah, that's just so awesome because I'm sure like I can relate to that story, just being not necessarily a guy telling me where to go. Although like, when I first went out bear hunting, I just followed, like he told me where to go. He came out with me, helped me bait up. And so I kind of just used his baiting technique. And that's kind of how I did it. And then he was like, hey, good luck, you know, and then it was, at least he actually came out with me, right? But
Buddy ended up coming out the next year and showing me a couple different areas and stuff. But the first 3 seasons or 4, it was the 4th season when my dad took one in front of me.
Yeah.
First 3 seasons were just stumbling around Crown land, looking for sign, looking for deer. I didn't see a single animal with a rifle in my hand for the first 3 years.
And how many days a year would you hunt?
That first year, I probably went out. I'd go out like the Saturday and Sunday. And I think rifle season back then was only like 10 days.
Okay, so you'd get like 2 weekends.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
exactly.
that was it. And
it's really not a lot of time in the grand scheme of things now that you're getting more into it.
yeah,
You're probably realizing like,
that's how another reason I went to the archery too, was because especially for the in-laws, well, before that even, it was there's not enough time and it's freaking deep ass snow. And I'm going way like 3 hours north to even see wildlife at that time because I thought it was just, well, those zones are really freaking, the closer you are to the city, the more pressure you're seeing. And especially opening weekend rifle season in Toba, if you're anywhere within 200 kilometers of the city, there's going to be trucks rolling down those roads.
There can be, but you know, in those zones, guys have actually learned, the hardcore guys, right? And I'd say that you're pretty much hardcore. You're like on that path. Like I can see it just walking the property today. How you been? We were shooting bows earlier today, and Josh had the spring on his trigger, and I asked like, "What's up with the spring?" He's like, "Well, so it's basically like a Bill Winke trigger where Bill Winke loved to have that spring in his trigger and like an old Scott release and just slowly press it, and it's like so you wouldn't have target panic. Well, I guess you could self-target, but punching the trigger.
It was originally from a Target Panic video.
Yeah.
And then just modified.
Yeah. It's like, wow. So this guy is applying things, and that's like guys who are into bow hunting. Like I guess I am, and other people like my buddies, you kind of look for little things like this because there's a lot of people
Up your game.
Yeah. But in other people, I'm saying too, because there's a lot of people at work or just that I meet that, you know, want me to take them out or whatever. And it's like, well, how serious are you about this, you know? But then when you see a guy like yourself who's taking this really seriously, it's easy to latch on and to be like, yeah, I'm gonna give this guy
a couple pointers, or at least point them in the right direction instead of just
exactly. So then you're saying you got into the archery so that you would have I went off a bit of a tangent there, but yeah, in those heavily populated areas where people are hunting a lot.
And then my fourth season, I went with my dad again, and this is when I learned about his hunting knowledge and whatnot. So I went way up near and went hunting with him. He again didn't even come out the first day that I had seen. He just like, I talked to the farmer over there, you're good on his chunk. And this guy owned like 80 square miles, like as far as you could see up by the park kind of deal. So I'm going out there. I'm like, I had one in my sights when I was coming home. I'm telling him when I got back, I'm like, he was standing right beside my truck when I got back there, but it was like right last light. So we'll go back in the morning. I'm going to go where I seen him pretty much, but I'll set you up like a mile south if you want. Park the truck the next morning, get out, go to walk. I had dropped my dad off a mile freaking north. By the time I sat down where I thought this little buck was going to come back out, hear a gunshot. Meanwhile, my dad had shot what would have been my first buck. He had shot the buck working its way back towards my truck. So then we get back to the house, and this is where I'm like, so what's the next step? And I thought we were going to gut it in the field. He takes it back to the cabin, and then he has no clue. He's like, normally I'd just walk away and the boys would do it in the shack. So then me and him are trying to figure this out and get it all hoisted up. He's got no hoist or no gamble or nothing. So we're makeshifting everything. And then like I'm watching YouTube videos while we're doing it because he has no clue, when meanwhile I thought he had all the clues. And then he kept one leg, I kept the other three, and that was like our first sample of deer. And then the next year was when it was like, okay.
How did you do the deer up though? Like how meticulous? You told me earlier how meticulous.
That was the left, since he kept the one leg and we brought back the three, it was already partially quartered. And we ended up, at the time, me and Bella didn't have a deep freezer.
Okay.
So we ended up keeping it at my mom's. And it was, I had seen how it was butchered by my dad and me. So I wasn't like too excited for that one.
So that's a different story.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then the next year I missed completely. Didn't even go out because I was pretty disheartened. That was already 3 years with not seeing an animal. Fourth year, almost getting one, but then my dad shooting it and then kind of butchering the meat. So then I sat out the fifth year. Sixth year was when I went with Devin, and Devin took me out probably like 15, 20 times.
Oh, wow.
Like we went hard.
That guy deserves a medal.
Yeah.
Serious.
And he was like...
I'm assuming he's a good buddy then.
Yeah. And he'd like, get your ass over here. And even if I slept in and I was like, I don't feel like we're not going to see anything, be like, get over here. We'll still go for 6 hours. Drive me out. Just keep the spirits up pretty much. And I remember it was November 22nd. We had already searched the whole morning. I had my best morning yet because I had seen a doe with a gun in hand. Missed the shot brutally because supposedly he's like, I was going to ask you if you wanted me to like count down and shoot with you because you were like all over the place for your first shot. I was like, oh, that might have helped. But thinking about it, it's like probably good I missed that first one because right after, like 3 hours later, came into the next field, saw a buck run across. It was like a farm field, like a quad trail kind of deal, not an actual gravel road. So we hopped out there. I kind of walked further down the road. All of a sudden sounded like two semi trucks hitting right beside me, but it was the two bucks just going at it, like probably like 25 yards away.
That's pretty awesome.
So it sounded like two semis had just collided, like rattling inside my diaphragm and stuff. Like I could hear them inside of me almost. It felt like they were so close. So I like squat walked with my gun around the clearing. There's just nothing there. I'm like, what?
Where are they?
Devin walks around, comes up, meets up with me. We're like, we just heard them. Like, they can't be that freaking far. Like, what's going on? He's like, okay, well, it's almost like 11 at this point. It's like, I'll go get the truck and stuff. We should probably warm up anyways, and then maybe we'll regroup and take off. He starts hiking back. I like duck behind. The field's like pretty wide open, an old cattle field kind of deal. Little bit of shrubbery in the one spot. I'm just walking along the edge of it. All of a sudden I see like just his nose and a bit of his rack stick out of the like thick brush. Oh frick, just like froze on the spot. brought up the gun, and it felt like forever that he was just like in the sights, but wouldn't give me more than just his head and rack. And then I saw what looked like his ass. So I thought I had like kind of the quartering two shot.
Or quartering away?
It would have been quartering two, kind of. I thought I saw
quartering
his
two,
ass behind him,
Oh,
so I
behind
thought I
him.
was going to blow right through.
Yeah.
And then I shot, and that's when I saw the second one move behind him. That was even, I feel like that was an even bigger buck in behind him, because
way,
they
they were
say
right
the
there.
bigger one always, like the smaller one always checks and the bigger one will stay back.
Well, quite often, yeah.
So then the one that I shot came storming out of the brush and kind of ducked, but I noticed his one leg was like mangled, and he was already spraying pretty good.
Yeah.
But this was my first deer shot ever, so I was still like, what the fuck's going on? So I'm like, I got to get another shot ready.
Yeah.
But that doe in the morning I had one dud. Like, first it started with a click. I had a dud shot for my first shot ever. Like, well, it would have been second because I had the doe mishap, but I only had 3 rounds loaded. So the doe mishap, the dud, and then the third shot took him out. But at this point, I'm like, I need a follow-up shot. So I'm like trying to sprint back to Devin in the truck to get a 4th bullet at this point. Get back there, and then I'm like, shot him there. It looked like shit went down, but I don't know what's going on. Yeah. So we went back to where I shot him. Heard a little bit of a rustle in the background. It's like, that's him. Walked around the brush, and he was just laying there. And Devin made me like watch him expire for my first deer and stuff, not walk away, because he said if walked away at the point, he might have jumped and spooked.
Yeah. So you had a bullet there ready.
Yeah.
You were loaded.
Yeah. And then he expired pretty soon.
Was it a pretty good shot? Like, was it a double lung?
It went in right by the heart and took one of his lungs, dislocated his shoulder, and blew out behind his shoulder. So he was like demobilized and missing a complete lung.
So maybe double lung, but lung for sure. And then if it was angling, diaphragm or whatever, liver possibly, yeah.
It blew out. It almost looked like it got caught in some of the membrane in the shoulder, because it was like his shoulder was all dislocated and popped off as the bullet was coming out, kind of in between, before the rib cage, and
so
in
it's
between
probably
the
double
meat.
lung then. It went through both shoulders then, right?
And it came in like right here, and then so then that one, and that was a big frickin', took me and Devin, and even putting it on Devin's back, and then using me and a pulley to pull him up to the roof of the garage, and to get a doe.
So it was a pretty decent deer then.
Yeah.
Nice.
For first buck ever, and it was a pretty nice one to see. I think it ended up being a 7x7 with one broken tine.
Oh man, I don't even think I've seen the pictures. You're gonna have to show me You have it there? Yeah, pull them up. I want to see this thing. That's a crazy story.
Yeah,
but it's
so
good though.
That was the first one. So then to archery, I went with Buddy this year, and this is before I had this place, because we got this place December and back in November, but I borrowed my dad's bow in August for this hunting season because I was sick of going out at the end of November for 1 week and just having to get it all done then. So this past season I grabbed the bow, then we ended up buying this place, so I didn't really get a hunting season. So this will be the first hunting season.
Oh yeah, with the bow. Yeah, no, that will be awesome. And hopefully all the improvements that you've done to the property will work out here. I'm sure they will. There's already deer using it. Yeah. Like you made a mock scrape and you already have bucks using it.
He came 2 days after I set up that one mock scrape on July 2nd, and he came July 4th.
So Jeff Sturgis is right.
It doesn't take long at all. I think my other ones, like that's probably my 5th one I've set up now. And some of my ones, like I've got easily over 100 deer have hit them already. Really? And they're just wild. Staples of their property already.
That is pretty sweet.
You could just set up on that with a kid in a blind know you're going to have activity through there, because they're all going to hit that.
No, that's a good point, because even like you're saying, if you're wanting to get kids into it, in Manitoba we can't bait, so we can't really use much, right?
A mock scrape or a watering hole. I doubt a CO would say your watering hole is
a watering
bait
hole
pile.
You can't,
and there's no way of changing the grading around that. An empty field without any feature versus a field with a mock scrape and a watering hole. Yeah, I'd hope you have a better chance of seeing wildlife than an empty field.
Exactly. Yeah, you would. Yeah. You would. I'm just looking at. Oh, that is a good buck. So I'm looking at a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like you said, a 7x7. So this looks like, I don't know. I can't age deer really well, but I would say definitely 3.5 for sure older.
He was just a
Yeah,
big ass body
that is
deer.
No kidding.
And then
That's
seeing like the doe this year that I dragged out of the bush was like, I went to grab it like my buck and it was just like sliding around on the snow. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
I'm expecting this big thing. And
Yeah.
then to shoot a doe this year.
So you ended up shooting a doe then?
Yeah, I went out with my grandpa with the rifles and my cousin and got him a doe that he butchered and
cool.
did all himself. He just wanted somebody to go out with.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got him that doe right away, but that was pretty much the end of my hunting season. I think I sat 3 times at the property. The one morning I still had, I think, 6 bucks come past at the in-laws there.
Oh, wow. That's good.
They were like French fry little spikers
Yeah.
and stuff, and I had
love
my
it, yeah.
target buck at that property,
Yeah.
so that arrow wasn't even coming off the
Yeah.
tree until I saw him.
That's just the thing with trail cams, right? When you use trail cams and a little bit of scouting, you see what's around. It's hard to shoot the younger bucks, you know, when you know there's a big guy
Yeah,
around.
and I'd already the first time, August 29th this past year, I was walking into the mock scrape. There's target buck probably 10 yards in front of me.
No
And
way.
snort wheezed me, and then spent the next 3 hours slowly trying to circle behind me, just grunting the whole time, like
No way.
letting me know he was there,
That's
and just slowly trying to get downwind. But my downwind side was the front yard,
yeah.
so he
and he's
couldn't get in.
He didn't want to go.
So
in.
he ended up just bedding probably like 30 yards to my east because he couldn't come to the south.
Wow.
And just sat there till I went out, and then I do my coyote howls once the sun sets, and then walk back into the yard.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if he knew it was me or what.
Yeah. Interesting.
But yeah, that was my only run in with him. So I was just looking for
That's
him
pretty-
again ever since.
Yeah, no kidding. That's pretty smart though, how you did that. Using the yard there as a kind of like a buffer zone, eh?
Yeah, I only would go into that mock scrape when it was northeast winds or north winds because it would blow all my scent into their front yard. And even he tried coming out to the west to circle around the ones, but he's exposed. So he just steps back into the forest. and
So you had
wouldn't-
no shot at him or anything
No.
then?
When I was sneaking in, I saw his ass. Snort wheezed, looked over his shoulder at me, but I was downwind and crouched down like
So
crawling
somehow you
in.
need to get a stand in there.
Yeah, we
And
were
then-
thinking of this season putting one earlier, but I almost don't want to put one that close to the yard because I feel like that might be like, yeah, I ran into him that one time at supper time, but I feel like he was probably up to something else there, not a normal behavior
Yeah.
to be that close to the yard.
Just coming through, rutting buck, you know?
Yeah.
So in that way. Yeah, no, that's pretty sweet that you're getting into that. So what kind of like, I know you kind of said you were fishing and you'd meet hunters, right? And so that kind of got you interested. So what's keeping you interested? Like what was it, the stories that got you into it? And then now what's keeping you? So it's kind of a 2-part question. What really got you thinking like, yeah, I like hunting, and why do you want to keep doing it?
Guess what really got me into it was I like shed hunting a lot, and I like just an excuse to spend a day kind of exploring and to have a weapon in your hand and like an actual purpose out there just like adds to it. So I guess that kind of got me into it, and what keeps me like around always practicing with the bow and trying to work fishing in and life is just, it would be nice to, the way the world's been going goes to shit, just have everything right here and be
You got a skill, right?
the knowledge to, because lots of those things seem like dying knowledges, so
Oh, big time.
dying skills. So even making like the trapping and shit too is, if I got the land to learn tanning and hide work, or even fishing jigs and stuff out of different furs and whatnot, different feathers and whatnot, it can all be kind of intertwined.
So like with bow hunting, right now you're shooting your dad's compound, but you did make mention that you wanted to get into maybe like stick bow shooting or self, like even make a self bow. out of something like
I
from
think
the
that
back.
would be like end goal, like old man style, like just drop it, like use all the aids and stuff now till the confidence and like a couple harvests under the belt maybe, and then go really old school just for like, okay, I've started like with the most aids and I guess work it down to the least amount of aids till where you're back to just a paper map and a wooden bow.
Oh, like even go like old school with navigation.
Well, I plan on harvesting in the backyard, so
Yeah.
maybe not, but like just that kind of idea of like use the aids as you start, but get to a point where you're comfortable enough that you could do it with just a stick and string.
So like kind of wearing, like looking the part too, wearing all the wool, you know, kind of like old school.
Yeah, like even last year I started wearing at the end of season, I was wearing those freaking like, I want to make a pair of just straight leather moccasin for hunting with the bow. Because it is so quiet wearing like just sock feet in the bush, or I was even wearing those like toms and bare feet, because you can feel every little twig on the sole of your foot. Or if you're wearing a boot, you can't feel that and you're going to break that twig. But walking around bare feet or like in the thinnest sole you can, you feel all that. And it's not like you need hiking boots if you're just doing a stalk, like you're not hiking up a mountain or need the sole protection. I almost like the like soft feet.
So that's, I guess, how you prefer to hunt, is kind of like spot and stalk or still hunting, like walking through the woods kind of deal.
Yeah, I like really observing the forest and the signs around you and kind of investigating the full story instead of just zoning in on there's a buck at the other end of this field, knowing the full story of what put him at the other end of that field.
Exactly.
How he got there, what routing he's taking, why he's taking that routing.
Yeah, what
the
wind direction.
intricacies of it, like not just the basic image.
And that's what bow hunting allows. It actually allows us to dig deeper. Where like rifle hunting, your buddy, like you said at the beginning, just go to this fire road and just walk around. And you're just walking around. You have no idea why the deer are there doing what they're doing. Like, and you become more successful actually doing what you're embarking on right now. Because you're going to be way more successful than all these other guys.
Yeah, well, even just from the first seasons of following tracks aimlessly to knowing to stepping back and like take a day learning on how to track properly, so you're not following week-old tracks of some smaller deer and break it down. And that's where if a deer goes through, I'll go check, investigate what the tracks look like at different timings of drying and whatnot, what he was munching on out in the yard, if I see him munching in the yard or whatnot, trying to learn something that's going to give you a leg up.
So like being a biologist in a way.
Yeah, somewhat.
That's how I've related it to people. They're like, so you just go out and you sit there or whatever. I'm like, no, like I scout and all this, and I try and be a biologist. Like I'm trying to learn why the deer is doing. Ultimately, I'm hoping that's going to be making me more successful. But that's what I like doing, you know, figuring it out, having a game plan. I like tree stand hunting mostly. So then just figuring out how the deer are moving through the land. Like how does the land push them, you know?
I feel like soon as I get more into the elevated, like I definitely see the advantages of that, but it's another whole gear curve too,
Big
where
time.
all these outdoor things, each presentation or avenue is pretty much its own. Might as well like take out a loan and a closet for each thing you want to get into.
With all the gear, you can't do it in one season. It's multiple. You have to just look at it. I'm pretty close to, I basically have everything I need. I'd like to get some better cold weather gear like Sitka or I guess there's a new company, or they've been maybe around for a couple of years. Scree. They look good because I tried the Sitka on at Heights there, the jacket, and that angled zipper. I just about dislocated my shoulder putting it on. I was like, that's not, I want a straight zipper.
My one buddy runs the full Sitka and he likes it, but I'm just like, I can't get over the price for just a camouflage suit when I can go. I've got like all my different patterns of camo that I'll pick up at a liquidation place or whatever for whatever.
For me, it's not so much the pattern. It's just that this gear has gotten so much better. The quality, and it keeps you warm. Where Sitka used to be really loud, and it would shine like shiny
reflective.
Sitka. Yeah, guys would laugh. Oh yeah, you know that, and it was like noisy. It wasn't good. It wasn't made for the whitetail woods. But there's a couple hardcore bow hunting brothers here, close to wherever in Manitoba. I'm not going to say areas, but they are big into the Sitka, and they're Mennonites and they're cheap. So they aren't spending a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
But they will spend money on this stuff. And they love it because
quality
it
and
keeps them warm. So it's like, it is a lot and it's tough. I have the heater bodysuit. Have you heard of that?
I think so.
Yeah. It's like a sleeping bag. You just zip it up. That's okay because I can wear lighter clothing.
Yeah.
But still getting in and out of it, like when you're going to shoot a deer, I've never really had an issue, but just kind of getting tired of like.
Yeah, I found myself
but-
using lots of my ice fishing layering
big time.
techniques, and then just hot paws in the glove,
Yeah.
like hand warmer, and just rock that. But then even getting used to the Manitoba feel of like I just go rock no glove because I didn't want to get over retraining to learn the feel with a glove on. Just keep both hands on those hot pockets in the hand warmer, and then if anything came, the plan was to.
But then once that buck stands behind a tree for like 5 minutes, I've been there where my hand is like super cold, even with the little gloves. Like I'll wear just like a little silk glove or whatever. And yeah, my hands have been frozen, but I use the same thing, like that heat a hand muff, you know, with the hot pockets there. And that really helps out. But
I guess this past year being the first archery season and not much, since the house didn't get really much of an archery season and really get to experience the full like cold sits. But even following Sturgis, I found myself a lot this season really picking my hunts and not blowing a hunt on poor winds or something, saving it. And then each time I did go sit, I'd have at least a sighting or like a buck walk by or something.
Yeah, that's awesome because so many guys, well, you can't shoot them from the couch. And Sturgis says, well, sometimes you can. Because like, why go out when the conditions are not good?
Yeah, you know? That's a big thing versus fishing. You can't catch them on the couch.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was a big mentality thing where like, well, you're never going to shoot one sitting on the couch, but then learning more of the intricacies of it, there's a lot more fish in the sea than nice bucks to go shoot.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah, you said it right there. And then you're just saving your hunt and, you know, for the best days. That's Spartan Forge is actually going to be coming out with an app right away here
with
too.
The prediction.
Yeah, with the prediction. So we'll see. Okay, from when you started to now, what would you wish you would have known when you first started? Like one thing, like when you were walking around stumbling through the woods.
To probably better prepared.
So more of kind of like a gear standpoint, or like
knowledge wise, I feel like it wasn't. Now there's a lot of hunting and fishing podcasts and channels.
Huge.
Back then, like you and Aaron were like, that's how come your video was on my feed. I think it was only Aaron. Now, if you search Manitoba fishing, there's probably like 20 plus channels.
Oh, there's so many channels popping up now. Yeah. It's huge. Yeah.
So that was a big thing where before, if you search Manitoba hunting, what are you going to find?
There wasn't much. Hunting is more of a niche market, right? Not as many people do it. So
and fishing was like that, and then like Uncut kind of brought that on the map, and then I think that's what opened my eyes to Manitoba has more to offer than.
And he was so good at it too.
Yeah,
like
so introducing. I remember seeing the Red River on one of Uncut's films and being like, the Red River has fish in it? Like, what? I've lived here all my life and I can just go to Selkirk and catch walleyes like that? Like, who would have thought that? And then, I guess now it's almost like we've hit a phase 2 now where you see a lot of, like, they call them on social media, like your fake huntresses and hunters for gear.
That's a whole nother podcast episode. Like, don't get me started on that.
So there's
I'm seeing some people they don't have a lot of experience. Not saying that there's anything wrong, because like it's actually interesting to talk to people necessarily
and they're
why they're getting
adding
into
to the sport, but like in the awareness level, I wish back then, like saying that's pretty much accounted for. The pickup is just it's become more like common knowledge almost.
It is. It's becoming a bit more mainstream, but sometimes I think like how long these people that get into it because of the Instagram thing or social media, whatever it is, TikTok, all those things. It's like, is there any standing power, long lasting power? Like how long are these, you go out in the woods like for 3 years, like you did 3-4 years, not seeing a deer. You kept doing it.
Yeah.
There's something inside of you that you wanted to keep pursuing. Deer hunting, right?
I think it's with all outdoor things, hunting and fishing, that accomplishment of feeling like you've actually learned enough about said animal to beat it at its own game. So same with fishing, hunting. It's all trying to at least learn what you're targeting well enough that you can set out for a day or a week and achieve that goal.
And know that you will have an opportunity or at least see something or
of that species, at least targeting. Otherwise, to me, it feels like, what have I been doing?
Exactly.
At least having a learning experience.
So when you were first starting out, I just had this question pop up in my head. What's one of the old wives' tales that you kind of believed or that you thought, like with hunting? Like, were there anything, like any...
I guess going back on how we were talking about expensive camouflage and shit, just watching coworkers walk into the bush and they're like literally in their work clothes, like reflective gear, and shoot a deer and drag it back out, and that's how it's done. Like, why are you making such a big deal about this?
Yeah.
Then it's like, well, there's all aspects of it. And I guess just those guys obviously have some knowledge.
Well, yeah, they have. That's right.
They can't do it all just by fluke. There's like different, that's where hunting and fishing, again, there's so many different avenues and branches and depths of like how deep do you want to take it, or
that's true,
what you believe. Like there's a lot of personal views in hunting and fishing, where one guy can say like my hunts are made from my camouflage, where the next guy's like, I just go out in my reflective, but I go to these areas and I always seem to get a deer. So,
and those guys would be mostly just trying to get a deer sitting on a cut line or something where you don't need a ton of knowledge. It's just
but here. Then they've got enough knowledge that they still do get some decent deer and stuff just from being right. They don't just walk in to any spot. They know from past years and stuff, if I walk to this stump and look towards, and it's got like this kind of general setup, then I've probably got pretty good chances.
No, you're right. You just can't discount them and say that they're a blower or not like a good hunter, I guess. They just do it differently and they're taking it at a different level.
Yeah.
Not everyone, like in our break there, we're talking about fishing and how intense you were and devoted to it, like to the details, like thinking outside the box that not many guys in Manitoba are willing to do. Like seriously, like I've fished with a decent amount of guys and you're taking it to a next level. And that's like, so you can do that, or you can be like just the average Joe, go out, sit on the fire road, right? Yeah. Walk around.
I think it comes down to the individual and how much, on how much they want to time and brain power they want to put into it.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess moving along here to your property and where you're going with hunting. So what are your goals for this year, this upcoming bow season? Because we're in July here. Season opens, I think, like August 29th or somewhere around there, 28th.
I haven't really looked into it because of the whole elk thing and stuff now.
Oh, that's
first
right.
Season going for elk. So
okay, that's a big one. Don't give away areas because we don't want to do that here. There's enough elk for people who want to go out for them. But so how have you been preparing for that? Have you been watching YouTube videos or?
Yeah, I guess working on calling aspects, some of the biology aspects, because I like just the biology of each different species. And I find like if you go out to turkey woods, whitetail woods, whatever species woods, you've got, just even in my short span, I've got areas that I know have more of this species or more of that species, or just better habitat for said animal. So I guess now we went scouting the other weekend, and just our only real elk knowledge is from catching them on trail cams, hunting other species. So that's where we started, since there's not really, again, it's like probably one of the, I'd say, least broadcast of the Manitoba species. And then it's just starting to pick up more and more. I feel like it's on the it's really hard to find, and they're kind of a more limited species, not as widespread.
That's right.
In the States and whatnot. And then I look at like States, you're looking for similar habitats, like at least with my fishing and stuff, that's what I always gone to. So how do you really compare Rocky Mountain habitat to
You can't.
Manitoba plains and stuff? So
It's different. Like
it's a whole different learning curve. I feel like it's a different species altogether than a mountain. Like you're not going to be watching how to glass mountain peaks for hunting in the plains.
That's right. So your buddy that you're going with a buddy, I guess. Has he hunted elk before?
He's even, I'd say, greener than me in the hunting fields, but more so just, I didn't even know elk was multiple people had to, but it makes sense to get you out there to actually have a shot, where I feel like if I was solo drawn for something as intimidating as like elk or moose solo,
That is a
working
tough
up
one.
the motivation without somebody else to go out with you, I think a lot tougher.
In Manitoba, you can actually put in for the draw on your own, for archery.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I know, because you're looking at probably the
A
rifle.
rifle and an archery, we did both.
Yeah.
So that's probably
That's
why.
why.
I
The
had to
rifle, you
submit.
need 2.
Okay.
Archery, you just can go on your own, because I've done archery on my own. But you're right. Like, it is daunting. Like, I remember getting drawn on my own, like when I was pretty brand new, like 3-4 years into bow hunting. And yeah, I had one guy, he showed me kind of some areas for an evening, and then that was it. And it was kind of daunting. It was like, I hunted a couple days on my own. And I was like, saw elk or 2. And it was tough though, like to keep going, the motivation, right?
Yeah.
So you got a buddy, if you're good buddies and you guys are both spurring each other on, one guy's down, the other guy's up, you can encourage the other guy.
I feel like even just getting out there with most of our hunting in Manitoba, like especially for elk, you're not going to backyard like whitetails.
No.
You're traveling. So
you're traveling, and you're probably setting up a camp. Are you guys going to camp?
yeah, I'm thinking we're going to do the full 10-day stint,
nice
weekend, stay the week, and then another weekend. But now instead of opener, I'm thinking we might plan it out more for the full moon of September.
After we're done this, I'll kind of give you my thoughts. I'm not a professional, but I'm not going to give them away here for free. So
definitely interested in hearing.
Yeah, just kind of like, opener. Well, whatever. There's benefits to everything, right? Opener, you're getting the
least amount of pressure.
The least amount of pressure. Sometimes they're on, sometimes they're not. You go later, they've been bugled at, and all this stuff, run around, but
yeah, fair enough. That's the thing with all hunting and fishing. It's always nice to have different points of view, because you can be really locked into one mindset, and it can be really hard to even research your way out of that mindset.
I've been in some deep mindsets where you don't really budge. You got buddies who are telling you, you don't have to do it this way. They don't hunt the same kind of terrain. No, I'm doing it because this is what they said out here in some publication, because now they have an authority voice, right? They're published, they're on a video. But then my buddy, he's like, no, you just do it this way. And he's shooting good animals every year. I'm like, I don't know this guy, but he knows because he's hunting the exact same terrain.
Yeah.
So it's like hunting big woods whitetails. I got into that. And all the rage right now is this mobile hunting, right? Being mobile, which is good in your situation, like in a farmland, being a bit more mobile, keeping the deer on edge, so you're catching them by surprise. But in the big woods, when the deer population's low, I'm seeing more and more. Sometimes you have to hop around until you find that good spot.
Yeah.
Right. And I did that last year a little bit.
But they're
around.
so much less used to any kind of out of the ordinary movement through that forest.
And
so
that
you
buck
can't be.
might only come through that area you're sitting once a week. So if you're hopping around and you're not sitting there,
then you just blew him till the next week, and who knows if he's even going to check it that week, because he might be spooked out of that zone for the rest of the season, since he's not used to seeing people that far back in there.
Exactly. And that's what I was realizing was like, okay, so these areas that are really good in the big woods are few and far between, but there are some amazing spots. And I did find one that was amazing. I ended up shooting my buck there last year, 140 inch. You saw the pictures there. Beautiful deer, there was a bigger one the day or 2 days before that I had at 35 yards. So it's like It's a great spot,
Yeah.
but it's, you still have to hunt it properly.
And
but
it probably took you freaking years to find
it
that
took me a couple
caliber
years.
spot.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, exactly. That's a whole nother episode there too, how I ended up my journey there. But yeah, so I guess your goal, hey man, you're trying to shoot an elk this year with the bow
Yeah.
in Manitoba, which is crazy.
And
Success
then-
rate is like 10%.
Yeah, and then have something to come back to, possibly. Would I guess be the end goal of my experiments with the habitat
With the
this
whitetails.
season. Yeah.
And are you looking for any buck? Are you thinking mature, like 3.5, 4.5? Are you looking age? Are you looking at score? What are you looking
I
there?
think I'd take just to get the fresh to I don't even know, can lost for words for just to get it off my chest. Probably put an arrow through a doe, and then but if a mature I feel like for me to shoot it, it'll have to be bigger than my first buck. I feel like in my head.
And what did you say? That buck was over 130, right?
It was 134 or something. 134 and an eighth.
Well, for an archery buck, that's pretty good. That's Pope and Young. Pope and Young's 125.
So I guess my goal would be to my first harvest, maybe for a buck with the bow on my own land, would have to be in that Pope and Young range.
Yeah, I would agree with that because my son there, Noah, he wanted on the first episode of this podcast, he was telling me, well, I knew it before, but he didn't want to shoot a fork horn or a spike. And he had opportunities, multiple.
Yeah, I had a couple this past season of the forks and the smaller and just little baskets, but it's you could turn into bigger than my buck. So, and it's private now. So I feel like that's different than when I was public and happened to get a 134 versus now it's private. Yeah. If he's 130 and I shoot him, I'm going to feel a lot worse than if he was on public and 130 and I shot him.
But then you can get old deer that are 7-8 years old that are 120.
Yeah,
115.
and if I knew he was that one that's on the property this year that's all grayed out and looks antique, if he comes by and looks that antique, then he'll probably get an arrow. And even if he's not bigger than 134, I'd feel pretty good about at least sticking to my plan of having, I guess my game plan for the land is to kind of have mature animals and not be picking off those forks before I know what they can turn into. But if he's that old, then I feel like I kind of know, or I might have missed his prime already, so I don't feel as bad shooting him.
So it sounds like you want to kind of get the monkey off your back, I guess.
Yeah.
And shoot something with your bow. Get a first bow kill. That's awesome. I think that's
in
good.
the yard.
In the yard, yeah.
Well, in general, I haven't shot anything with the bow yet.
On your property that you've developed. That's pretty awesome. And then if for your buck tag, sounds like a mature buck is what you're after, which is awesome.
Either target buck or I'm hoping something bigger will come through my yard because the target buck's only 5 miles away.
Yeah, during the rut, on this area, it's a good area. I've hunted close to this area, like I was saying. There's big deer all in here, so.
And some of the sheds coming out of the the spring have been pretty nutty, so.
Exactly.
Some big deer that hang out in the around and whatnot.
You keep the does happy here and you're going to have a decent hunt, at least in the rut. But thanks for coming on here.
No problem. Thank you for having me. And thanks for swinging by to fling some arrows.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're doing great.
Really appreciate it.
Man, you're doing great out there. We were stacking arrow for arrow. You were shooting right with me. I've been doing this 20 years.
My second time shooting 40 yards.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, this guy's, he's a student of the game. That's good. So I'd love to have you on after you're done the hunting season, see how everything went, the elk hunt,
Definitely have to get out for a fish sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe
shoot some turkeys with, some rabbits and squirrels with Noah or something, or chickens and shit are all over the property. So.
Yeah, exactly. Got my youngest son there too, Asher. He's 7. You'd love to try and
blast
stalk
some squirrels.
Yeah. He has a little bow actually. He has a little compound and a little recurve. So
that would be awesome.
When we're camping there, he was making his own bows and arrows and stone points on there too, and he's stalking up.
Awesome.
But the kicker there is he got full of poison ivy.
Wow, there's so much this year, it's ridiculous.
So it was he's like, I'm never going camping again. But I'm like, you want to go. You're an outdoorsy guy.
We'll
Just
get him chasing rabbits in the winter when
Yeah,
there's no poison ivy
exactly.
and he can just go all day.
Okay,
Some of those hares
yeah.
will probably be the same size as him.
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, there's some big ones out there, eh? Well, really appreciate it, Josh, and I guess we'll talk to you again soon.
Talk to you on the next one.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sounds good.